I arrived early. 10 minutes. That's all it was. 10 minutes that turned my whole life into a different life. I cut the engine at the curb and sat there with my hand still on the wheel, looking at the place like it might blink and change into something else if I stared hard enough. The rental was one of those modern farmhouse houses people post online. Black trim, white siding, big windows, perfect landscaping that looked too perfect, like it was auditioning for a magazine. Behind it, half hidden by a line of tall cedars, was the backyard and the hot tub. I'd helped pick this place for the weekend. Me, my wife, and her best friend. A reset, my wife had called it. A little escape before the end of the year, before the schedule got insane again, before we pretended we were fine through another season of forced smiles. My wife, Paige, had said she'd drive up later with snacks and some wine. She'd insisted. "You go ahead, get the heat going, make it cozy," she said. "I'll be right behind you." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But then she texted me an hour ago, running early. "Don't worry about me. I'll handle everything." That line, "I'll handle everything," was one of her favorites. Paige said it the way other people said "I love you," like it meant the same thing. I got here early because I forgot my laptop charger at home and had to turn back. I got here early because I actually wanted the weekend to work. I got here early because I still had that stupid instinct to try, even when trying made me feel like an unpaid employee in my own marriage. I grabbed my bag, walked up the stone path, and punched in the gate code we'd been given. The keypad beeped, the latch clicked, and the gate swung inward. Warm air hit me immediately, steamy, chemical-clean hot tub air, like a spa trying to hide a secret. And there they were. Paige was in the hot tub, not alone. She was leaning back like she owned the night, shoulders bare, hair piled up messy like she'd just gotten out of a shower. The porch lights made her skin shine. She laughed at something, head tilted, hand moving through the water like she was drawing lazy circles. Right beside her, close enough that their shoulders brushed when the bubbles shifted, was Owen Rusk. Owen, the husband of Paige's best friend, Lila. The guy who shook my hand at dinners and called me buddy. The guy who always brought craft beer and talked about real estate deals like they were sports scores. The guy who had a very practiced way of making eye contact that never quite reached his face. He had his arm along the ledge behind Paige, not fully around her, not a hug, not something you'd point to in court and call evidence. But it was intimate. It was comfortable. It was the kind of closeness that wasn't supposed to exist. Paige looked right at me. Her smile didn't disappear. It just adjusted, like she was changing a mask without taking it off. "Hey," she called, too casual, like I'd just walked into a kitchen while she was stirring pasta. Owen didn't look guilty. He didn't scramble away. He didn't try to explain. He smiled, slow and easy, like he'd been expecting me. I felt something in my chest drop, but it wasn't shock. Not exactly. It was recognition. Like my body had been waiting a long time for my brain to catch up. I didn't step into the yard. I stepped backward. I let the gate swing closed, and then I locked it. The latch snapped like a gunshot in the quiet. My hands were steady. That's the part that scares me now, thinking back. My hands were steady, even as my life stopped being what it had been 5 seconds earlier. I took out my phone. I didn't call Paige. I didn't text her. I didn't ask, "What is this, like some guy in a bad movie?" I scrolled to Lila's number, Paige's best friend, the woman who'd hugged me at our wedding and told me she was so happy Paige found a good one. I hit call. She answered on the second ring, cheerful and distracted. "Hey, you there already?" My voice came out low, flat, like I was reading a weather report. "You better come over right now." A pause. "What?" "Right now, Lila." "What's going on?" I looked at the closed gate like it might start rattling any second. Like Paige might come charging at it, yelling, trying to flip the story before it could land. I kept my words simple, because simple words are the ones that leave bruises. Paige is in the hot tub with Owen. Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. Then Lila breathed out, sharp. That's not funny. I'm not laughing. Another beat, smaller now, like her mind was trying to build a bridge over a river that suddenly existed. You sure? I'm looking at them, I said, even though I wasn't anymore. I didn't need to. The picture had burned in. You need to come here. A small sound, maybe a swallow, maybe her teeth touching. Okay, I'm coming. Then, before she could hang up, she said something that made my stomach tighten. I'm not coming alone. I didn't respond fast enough, so she added, voice harder now, all the cheer drained out like someone pulled a plug. I'm not walking into that alone. Do what you need to do, I said. She ended the call. I stood there on the driveway side of the gate, listening to the backyard like it was an enemy room in a war I didn't sign up for. For a moment, everything was still. Then Paige's voice floated over the fence, slightly muffled. Evan? Seriously? She said my name like it was a joke she didn't respect. I didn't answer. I walked to my car, popped the trunk, and took out the small toolkit I kept for work. Not because I planned to use it on anyone, because I liked having something solid in my hands, something honest. Metal didn't lie to you. I closed the trunk and leaned back against the car, staring at that gate. It wasn't just a gate, it was a line, a clean, physical line between the man I'd been and the man I was about to become. The first headlights appeared maybe 8 minutes later. Lila's SUV came around the bend too fast, tires crunching gravel. She didn't park nicely. She stopped like she was angry at the concept of parking, and she wasn't alone. A second car followed her in, an older black sedan, the kind you'd expect outside a courthouse or a funeral home. It pulled in calm and controlled, like whoever was driving had been in tense situations before and didn't waste motion. Lila got out first. She was small usually soft, usually the kind of woman who organized group chats and took pictures of dinner plates and made everything feel friendly. Not now. Now she moved like a blade. Behind her, from the SUV, stepped a man I'd only met once, Lila's brother, Grant. Broad shoulders, close-cut hair, eyes that didn't dart around. He looked at me, nodded once, then looked at the gate like he already knew what was on the other side and had decided how he felt about it. From the black sedan, a woman got out, mid-40s maybe. Sharp coat, sensible shoes, a leather folder tucked under her arm like it belonged there. She didn't look around like a tourist. She looked around like she was measuring angles. Lila walked straight to me. Is it true? She demanded. I didn't soften it for her. Softening is what people do when they want to keep the peace. Their heads were practically touching, I said. I locked the gate. Lila's face did something strange, like anger was trying to fight grief for space. She turned to the woman from the sedan. Gwen, you're sure this is okay? The woman, Gwen, opened the folder slightly, like she wanted to remind the air she had paperwork. I'm not a cop, she said calmly. I'm here as your attorney, and I'm here as your witness. We're going to keep this clean. Attorney. That word landed like a brick. I looked at Lila. You brought an attorney. Lila's eyes were wet but steady. Owen tried to move money around last year, she said, voice tight. I didn't listen to my gut. I listened to his excuses. Not doing that again. Grant stepped closer. We opening this gate or what? On the other side of the fence, Paige's voice rose again. Lila? What the? She sounded confused now. Not scared. Not yet. Lila punched the code. Her fingers shook the first time, then steadied, like her body remembered how to function when her mind couldn't. The latch clicked. Lila pushed the gate open. Warm steam rolled out like breath. The backyard lights came on automatically, brightening the scene in a way that felt cruel. No hiding, no shadows, just the truth, lit up like a stage. Paige was still in the hot tub. Owen was still beside her. But now, Paige's face wasn't relaxed anymore. Now it had that look people get when the story is slipping out of their hands. Lila stepped forward, stopping at the edge of the patio. Paige's mouth opened. Lila. Owen lifted a hand like he was greeting neighbors at a barbecue. Hey, he said, smooth. This looks intense. Lila stared at him like she couldn't believe her eyes were being forced to do this. What are you doing? She asked, voice low. Owen chuckled, like the question itself was unreasonable. Relaxing? We got here early. Paige said you were on your way. Paige's eyes snapped to me. Evan, tell her. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let Paige handle what she'd built. Lila took one more step. Why are you in the hot tub with my husband? Paige's laugh came out too quick, too bright. Oh my God, seriously? We were just talking. Grant's jaw tightened. He didn't speak, but his presence was an answer. Gwen stayed a few paces back, watching, silent, taking in details, the kind of silence that makes liars sweat. Owen leaned back, casual. You're making it weird, babe. Lila flinched at babe, like it was an insult. Paige started to stand up in the water, bubbles sliding off her shoulders. Lila, stop. This is stupid. Evan is being dramatic. I finally spoke because the word dramatic hit something in me. Don't, I said quietly. Paige's head turned toward me, eyes narrowing. Don't what? Don't try to make me the problem, I said. My voice surprised me. It wasn't loud. It didn't crack. Not tonight. Owen's smile faded a fraction. Man, you're overreacting. Gwen's voice cut through, calm as a blade. No one's overreacting. Everyone's observing. Owen blinked, like he'd forgotten other adults existed. Who are you? Not your friend, Gwen said. Lila's hands curled into fists. Get out, she said to Owen. Owen's eyebrows lifted. Excuse me? Get out of the tub, she repeated. Right now. Paige jumped in like she couldn't help herself. Lila, don't do this. You're embarrassing yourself. That was Paige's move. Push the other woman into shame. Make her doubt her own eyes. Paige had done it to waitresses, to co-workers, to my mother once with a sweet smile and a comment that left bruises for weeks. But Lila didn't fold. Her voice shook, but it didn't break. I'm not embarrassed, she said. I'm done. Owen's face hardened. You're being crazy. Grant stepped closer, finally speaking. Watch your mouth. Owen looked at him, assessing. Then he looked at me, like he was trying to figure out if I was the kind of man who'd swing. I didn't give him anything. I just watched. Because I'd learned something about my wife over the years. Paige didn't fear yelling. She feared silence. Silence meant you were thinking. Silence meant you were choosing. Owen stood up slowly in the water, hands out like a performer. Okay, fine. Everybody calm down. He started to climb out. Paige grabbed his wrist under the water. Quick, almost invisible. A touch, a stop. And that touch told me everything I needed to know. Lila saw it too. Her face went pale in a way that wasn't about lighting. Gwen opened her folder slightly, eyes never leaving Paige and Owen. Noted, she murmured, almost to herself. Paige released Owen's wrist like it was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. It was the kind of nothing that destroys families. Owen stepped out, dripping, reaching for a towel. Paige stood up too, water running down her, grabbing the edge like she owned the space. She didn't look ashamed. She looked irritated, like we'd interrupted her. Evan, she said, voice low and sharp, go inside. I stared at her. No. Her eyes flashed. This is between Lila and Owen. Lila laughed once, ugly and raw. No, she said. It's between all of us now. Paige's gaze flicked to Gwen. Who is she? Lila wiped at her face fast, angry at the tears. My lawyer. Paige actually recoiled at that. Just a little. Because Paige loved control, and lawyers were control with teeth. Owen's voice went smooth again, like he could still charm his way out. Lila, you're really going to do this over a hot tub? Lila stared at him, eyes burning. Over the last year, she said. Owen's smile froze. What's that supposed to mean? Lila's voice dropped. Don't. Paige glanced at Owen, then back at Lila, like she was calculating. You're tired, Paige said, shifting tactics. You're stressed. You're seeing things. Gwen finally stepped forward. No one is seeing things, she said. They're seeing exactly what's in front of them. Paige's jaw clenched. This is insane. Grant looked at Paige for the first time directly. You always talk like that? He asked. Like everyone else is stupid? Paige's eyes flashed. Who are you? Her brother, Grant said, and I don't like what I'm looking at. Paige took a step toward the gate, toward me, like she could still muscle the scene back into her version. Evan, she said, voice turning soft, private. Can we talk? I didn't move. We're talking, I said. Her lips tightened. Not like this. Like what? I asked. Like the part where you explain why you're in a hot tub with your best friend's husband at the house you told me to get ready for you? Paige's eyes widened just enough to look wounded. You're making it sound bad. It is bad, I said. Owen laughed again, but there was no humor now. Man, you're acting like she cheated on you. Paige shot him a look, warning. That alone was another piece. A silent communication. A practiced one. Lila's voice went thin. Did you? She asked Paige. Did you do this because you wanted to hurt me? Paige scoffed. Oh my God, Lila. Don't be dramatic. This isn't about you. Lila's face twisted like she'd been slapped. It's literally about me, she said. That's my husband. Paige's gaze slid to Owen again. And Owen, stupidly, confidently, smiled at Paige like they were on the same team. That's when I knew tonight wasn't going to end with apologies. It was going to end with choices. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A text. From my business partner, Nate. You still coming by in the morning? Bank needs your signature for the refinance. Normal life trying to reach me through the crack in the door. I typed back without looking down. Change of plans. I'll call you tonight. I put the phone away and looked at Paige. She met my eyes, and for a second, just a second, something like fear flickered there. Not fear of being caught, fear of losing control of the narrative. Evan, she said carefully now, let's go inside. Please. I shook my head slowly. No, I said again. Not until the truth is out here. Paige's face hardened. Fine, she snapped. You want truth? Here's truth. You've been checked out for months. You think showing up early makes you a hero? That's when Owen spoke, low, like he couldn't help himself. He doesn't even know, Owen said. The words were quiet, but they landed like a hammer. Lila turned to him. Know what? Owen's mouth twitched. He realized he'd stepped on a wire. Paige's eyes shot to him, pure warning now. But Owen had already tipped the table. He looked at me, smug creeping back in like a bad habit. Ask your wife, he said. Ask her what she told Paige about you. I stared at Lila, confused. Lila stared back, equally confused. Gwen's eyes sharpened. Grant took a half step forward. Paige's face went still, and in that stillness, I felt it. The shape of something deeper than tonight. Something layered, something planned. I exhaled slowly. Paige, I said, voice calm. What did he mean? Paige's lips parted. Nothing came out. And that, more than anything, told me this wasn't just a moment. It was a system, and I'd just walked into the machinery. Paige tried to laugh it off. She always did that first, turn it into a joke, make everyone feel dumb for taking it seriously. Owen loves stirring the pot, she said. He says things. Lila's eyes were glassy now, fixed on Owen like she was trying to recognize him again. "What did you mean?" she asked him. "What doesn't he know?" Owen shrugged, still wrapped in his towel, still playing like he wasn't standing in a crater. "It's not my place," he said, and that line, "not my place," was so fake it almost impressed me. Grant barked a short laugh. "Then shut up," he said. "Or say it." Gwen raised a hand slightly, not to stop him, but to keep the scene from tipping into something that would become useful to the wrong people later. "Everyone breathe," she said. "No one touches anyone." Paige shot her a glare. "I don't take orders from you." Gwen's expression didn't change. "You're not the one giving them," she said. That got under Paige's skin. I saw it. Paige couldn't stand being put in the background. She turned to me again, voice softening, trying to pull me out of the group and into her private gravity. "Evan, you're tired. Let's talk inside. Please." I looked at the water still rolling in the hot tub, bubbles popping like tiny, pointless explosions. "No," I said. "Talk here." Paige's nostrils flared. "Fine. You want here? Okay, here." She looked at Lila. "I was upset. I called you earlier because I was upset. That's it." Lila blinked. "Called me? I didn't—" Paige waved a hand, impatient. "Not you. I called him." She nodded at Owen. "Because you weren't answering. And I didn't want to bother Evan with it because he's been—" She stopped herself like she'd nearly said something too honest. I finished it for her. "Because I've been what?" Paige's eyes flashed. "Busy," she said quickly. "Distant. Not present." I stared at her. "So your solution was to get in a hot tub with Owen?" "It wasn't like that," Paige snapped. Gwen's voice cut in even. "Then describe exactly what it was." Paige looked like she might explode. "It was a conversation. Adults talk." Grant muttered, "Not like that." Owen rolled his eyes. "Oh my God." Lila's voice trembled. "Paige," she said, "look at me. Just tell me straight. Have you been with him?" Paige's face tightened. Then she did what she always did when cornered. She attacked. "You're insecure," Paige said, sharp as glass. "You always have been. That's why you keep checking his phone. That's why you always think something's happening." Lila recoiled. "I don't—" Owen jumped in fast. "Babe, don't do this!" Lila turned on him. "Don't call me that." Owen's face hardened. "You're embarrassing me." That sentence, "you're embarrassing me," told me more about Owen than 1,000 photos could. Lila stared at him, stunned. "I'm embarrassing you," she repeated, like she couldn't believe the words existed. Paige watched them fracture, and for a second, she looked satisfied. Then she glanced at me and saw my face, and something shifted. Because I wasn't pleading, I wasn't yelling, I wasn't trying to win her back. I was watching. And Paige understood watchers. Paige understood people who kept receipts. Her voice softened again, too late. "Evan," she said, "please, don't let this become something it isn't." I nodded once, slow. "It already is," I said. And then I did the only thing I could do that didn't involve shouting. I asked one question. "Owen," I said, looking him straight in the eyes, "what doesn't Lila know?" Owen's jaw clenched. Paige's nails dug into the towel she'd grabbed. Lila's brother stared at Owen like he was deciding what kind of man he was. Gwen's pen appeared in her hand like magic. Ready. Owen looked at Paige. Paige looked at Owen. And in that look, just a flicker, I saw it. Coordination. Habit. The silent agreement of two people who had been playing a game for a while. Owen exhaled through his nose. Then he said it. "He doesn't know about the money," Owen said. My chest tightened. "What money?" Lila's face went pale again. "Owen," she whispered. Owen kept going, like he'd committed now and wanted to burn the bridge so no one could drag him back. "Ask Paige why she's been so stressed," he said to me. Ask her what she did with your line of credit. The world narrowed. I heard the hot tub bubbling like it was miles away. Paige's face went still, perfectly still. And I knew, right there, that the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was financial. It was structural. It was the kind of betrayal that doesn't heal with an apology because it's not a mistake. It's a decision. I looked at Paige, voice low. Did you touch my credit? Paige's eyes darted once to Gwen. She didn't like the lawyer presence now. Not at all. No, Paige said quickly, too quickly. That's ridiculous. I nodded. Okay, I said. Then we can prove it. Paige's head snapped up. What does that mean? It means, I said, we're done talking in circles. I pulled my phone out again, thumb moving with calm that felt almost inhuman. Paige's eyes widened. Evan, stop. I didn't stop. I opened my banking app, and I handed the phone to Gwen. I want this documented, I said. Right now. Gwen took it without hesitation, like she'd been waiting for me to become this version of myself. Paige's voice rose. You can't just... Gwen cut her off. Actually, he can, she said. It's his account. Lila covered her mouth with her hand, shaking. Grant's hands clenched. Owen stared at the ground like he wished it would open. Gwen scrolled, eyes sharp. Then she paused. Her expression didn't change, but her voice lowered half an inch. Here, she said. She turned the screen slightly so I could see. A balance transfer, a large one, a series of smaller ones. The name on the receiving side wasn't Paige. It was a business LLC I'd never heard of. I felt something cold move through me. Paige's voice came out thin. That's not... I held up a hand. Not angry, not loud, just final. Don't, I said. Paige stared at me. And for the first time that night, she looked genuinely uncertain, because she realized she'd misjudged me. She thought I'd collapse. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd explode and make myself look unstable. Instead, I'd gotten quiet. And quiet men don't break things. They dismantle them. Paige stared at the screen like it had betrayed her. Gwen kept the phone steady, scrolling with the calm of someone who's seen 100 "it's not what it looks like" faces, and never believed a single one. Lila made a small sound, half gasp, half laugh, like her body couldn't decide what emotion was safest. Owen finally looked up. That's not... he started. Grant snapped, Quiet. Paige's voice went sharp. Evan, you're letting her... Gwen cut in, still polite. I'm not letting anything happen. I'm documenting what is already here. Paige stepped toward us, wet towel clutched tight, eyes blazing. Give me my phone. It's not your phone, Gwen said, handing mine back to me without drama, and I suggest you stop making demands and start making sense. Paige turned to me, switching tactics again, soft eyes, small voice. Evan, please, this is private. I nodded once. It was private, I said. Before I walked in. Her lips trembled like she was going to cry. Paige could summon tears like some people could summon a cab. But she didn't cry. Because she could tell it wouldn't work on me right now. Lila took a shaky breath. Paige, she said, what is that LLC? Paige blinked fast, like the question offended her. I don't know, she lied. Owen's face tightened. That lie wasn't for us. It was for him, too. I watched his eyes flick, just once, toward the patio table where a phone sat near a pair of sunglasses. His phone. Lila saw it, too. She moved without thinking, grabbed it. Owen lunged. Lila! Grant stepped in between them with the kind of calm that promised consequences. No, Grant said, quiet. Owen froze. Not because Grant was huge. Grant wasn't huge. Because Grant looked like someone who didn't bluff. Lila held the phone in both hands, trembling. What's your passcode? She asked Owen. Owen tried a laugh. Seriously? You're doing this in front of people? Yes, Lila said. Right now. Tell me. Owen looked at Paige like she'd save him. Paige didn't even look back. That told Lila something, too. You could see it happen. another layer of truth snapping into place. Gwen leaned slightly toward Lila. "If you're going to access it," she said gently, "do it clean. Don't destroy anything. Don't delete anything. Take pictures if you see what you need to see. Then put it down." Lila nodded like she'd just been given oxygen. Owen exhaled hard. "Fine," he muttered. He rattled off the code with a bitterness that sounded like blame. Lila unlocked it. Her face changed as she scrolled, color draining, breath shortening. Paige's chin lifted like she refused to watch. I didn't have to see the screen to know what was there. I could read it in the way Lila's shoulders collapsed and then went rigid. "Owen," Lila whispered, voice wrecked. "You called her Sunshine." Paige flinched. Just a tiny one. Owen snapped, "It's a joke." Lila looked up at Paige now. "How long?" she asked. Paige laughed, sharp. "You're asking me? Ask your husband." Lila's eyes filled. "I am asking you." Paige's mouth tightened. "I don't owe you anything." That sentence was like a match. Grant's voice went low. "You owe her respect." Paige looked at him with disgust. "Who are you again?" "The guy who's about to walk you to your car," Grant said. Paige snapped her head toward me. "Evan, are you really letting her brother threaten me on a weekend trip you planned?" I stared at her. "I didn't plan this," I said. I heard myself say it and realized it was the first completely true sentence of the night. Paige's eyes narrowed. "So what? You're going to team up with them?" "I'm not teaming up," I said. "I'm watching, and I'm learning." Gwen stepped forward again, folder tucked tight. "Here's what happens next," she said, calm but firm. "Everyone separates. No shouting match in the driveway, no grabbing phones, no pushing, no, she said, later. Paige scoffed. "You think you run this?" Gwen looked at Paige like she was a math problem. "I think you need to be careful," she said, "because you're not the only one with something to lose." Paige's eyes flashed. "Evan doesn't have—" I cut her off. "Stop speaking for me." Paige's mouth opened, closed. That got her attention more than any yelling could. I turned to Lila. "You okay?" Lila shook her head once. "No," she said, "but I'm here." Grant put a hand on her shoulder. She leaned into it for half a second, like her bones needed help holding her up. Owen stood there, wet hair, towel, trying to look casual and failing. "This is being blown out of proportion," he said. Gwen's voice turned colder. "If you're trying to fix your situation," she said, "start by saying nothing." Owen blinked. "Excuse me?" "Say nothing," Gwen repeated, "and leave." Paige's laugh burst out. "Oh, that's rich. You're ordering him off the property?" Gwen glanced toward me. "It's your rental, correct?" I nodded. Gwen looked back at Paige. "Then it's his property for the weekend." Paige stared at me like she'd been slapped. "You're going to kick me out?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence do what it does. Then I said, "Yes." Paige's face tightened. "You can't." "I can," I said, "and I am." She stepped toward me, voice dropping. "Evan, think. You do this and you're declaring war." I held her gaze. "You declared it first." For a second, Paige looked like she might scream. Instead, she smiled. Small, dangerous. "Fine," she said softly. "Let's do this your way." She turned and walked toward the house, dripping water onto the stone like she didn't care what trail she left behind. I followed at a distance, not to reconcile, to make sure she didn't take anything she shouldn't. Inside, the rental smelled like pine cleaner and expensive candles, cozy on purpose, designed to make people feel safe. Paige moved through it like she was the owner. She grabbed her bag from the hallway closet, then paused at the kitchen island where a set of keys lay. She picked them up slowly. My keys, not hers, not ours, mine. I watched her thumb brush the key fob like she was thinking. Don't, I said. She looked up, smile still there. Don't what? Don't take my car, I said. Paige tilted her head. You don't trust me now? I didn't take the bait. You have your car. She set my keys down with a click that sounded like a threat. In the living room, Owen's voice carried in from the patio, irritated and low. Grant's voice answered, calmer. Lila's voice, shaky then steadier, like she was forcing herself to stand in her own life. Paige's eyes flicked toward the sound. They're being dramatic, she said, like it was a diagnosis. I opened a drawer and pulled out the printed rental agreement, not because I needed it, but because it grounded me. A paper, a name, a date, something real. Paige watched me with that little smile fading. So, what's your plan? She asked. You're going to play hero? I looked at her. My plan is to protect myself. Paige laughed once. From me, Evan, you're not a victim. That line hit a nerve because she'd used it before, when I asked why she forgot to transfer her half of the mortgage for 3 months, when I asked why my name was suddenly off the utility account, when I asked why she'd made a small business purchase on my card without asking. Not a victim. Just a man who needed to toughen up, apparently. I kept my voice even. Where did the money go? Paige stared like she couldn't believe I was still on it. What money? Don't do that, I said. Not tonight. Where did it go? Paige crossed her arms. It's complicated. That's not an answer, I said. She stepped closer, dropping her voice like she was being intimate. You want the truth? You wouldn't understand the pressure I'm under. I understand theft, I said. Paige's eyes flashed. Don't use that word. Then don't do the thing the word describes, I said. For a second, she looked genuinely furious, like the mask had slipped enough for me to see what lived underneath. Then she inhaled, slow, and went calm again. Okay, Paige said. If we're being honest, I borrowed it. I waited. She lifted her eyebrows. I was going to put it back. From where? I asked. She waved a hand. From a deal. What deal? I pressed. Paige's smile returned, smaller now, sharper. You're not entitled to every detail of my life. I stared at her. That was the moment something inside me clicked into place. This wasn't a mistake. This was how she lived. Paige didn't see marriage as partnership. She saw it as access. Access to money, access to social standing, access to someone who would clean up her messes while she stayed shiny. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. Then you can leave. Paige's eyes widened. Evan. Now, I said. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I was actually enforcing a boundary. Then her voice turned cold. You're going to regret this. I already regret plenty, I said. Go. Paige's nostrils flared. She grabbed her bag, walked past me, shoulder bumping mine just enough to be intentional. At the doorway, she turned back, eyes locked on mine. You think you can beat me at this? She said softly. You don't even know what game you're in. And then she walked out. I stood there for a second, listening to my own breathing. Then I moved. Because I did know one thing. If Paige was moving money, this wasn't just a marriage problem. It was a financial problem. And financial problems don't get solved with feelings. They get solved with steps. Outside, Owen was trying to talk his way out of the crater. I didn't do anything, he said. We were talking. She was stressed. That's it. Lila's laugh broke, then steadied. You were talking in a hot tub, she said. At night, at a house you didn't rent. Owen's face twisted. You're acting like I'm some monster. Grant's voice stayed low. Stop making yourself the victim. Owen pointed at me. He's enjoying this. I didn't respond. Gwen stepped toward Owen. Do you have your car here? She asked. Owen blinked. Yeah. Then leave, Gwen said. He scoffed. Or what? Gwen's eyes didn't change. Or you keep talking and give everyone more to remember. Owen's jaw clenched. He looked at Lila like he wanted to intimidate her into softness. But Lila didn't soften. She lifted her phone, her own, and said, voice shaking but clear, "I'm taking pictures of everything I saw tonight, and I'm sending them to myself and to Gwen." Owen's face went pale. "Lila," he snapped, "that's insane." "No," she said. "What you did is insane." Owen turned toward the gate, stalking like he'd been wronged. Grant didn't follow him. Grant just watched him leave, eyes cold. When Owen's taillights finally disappeared down the road, the backyard felt quieter, but not calmer. Lila hugged herself. "I can't believe this," she whispered. Gwen softened her tone slightly. "You don't have to believe it tonight," she said. "You just have to document it." Lila nodded, wiping her face. "I want to go home." Grant nodded. "We will." Lila looked at me. "Evan," she said, voice raw, "I'm sorry." I shook my head. "Don't," I said. "You didn't do this." Gwen stepped closer to me. "Now," she said quietly, "your situation is separate. Different legal lanes, but you need to move fast." I swallowed. "What do I do?" Gwen looked me in the eye. "Tonight," she said, "you screenshot everything you can. You change your passwords. You separate accounts if you can. You freeze what you can freeze. And you don't warn her." I stared at the house where Paige had just been, where her threat still hung in the air. "You think she's going to run," I said. Gwen's expression stayed calm. "People who move money don't like witnesses," she said. "And tonight, you became one." Grant touched Lila's shoulder. "We're leaving," he told Gwen. Gwen nodded. "I'll follow up in the morning." Lila took one more look at me, eyes full of sympathy and pain. "Be careful," she whispered. I nodded once. Their cars pulled out, gravel crunching under tires. The driveway swallowed the sound. And then I was alone. In a rental house I'd tried to make romantic, with the smell of hot tub chemicals still floating on the night air. I went inside, sat at the kitchen island, opened my laptop, and did the first thing a man does when his whole life flips. I started making a list. Not a revenge fantasy. A real list. 1. Get evidence. 2. Lock down accounts. 3. Protect the business. 4. Control the timeline. 5. Don't let her see you coming. My phone buzzed again. A new message. From Paige. "You're going to be sorry." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back 2 words. "Noted. Thanks." And I turned my phone face down like I was putting a lid on something toxic. Because the next phase wasn't about arguing. It was about taking my life back, piece by piece, while Paige still believed she had the upper hand. I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen island until the sky started to lighten at the edges, laptop open, phone face down, coffee going cold beside me. The house creaked the way unfamiliar houses do at night, like it was breathing without you. I logged into everything: banking, credit cards, business accounts, utilities, cloud storage. Paige had always handled the boring stuff, which really meant she handled the access. She liked that power. I liked not thinking about it. That was on me. I started with passwords, one by one, no patterns, no names, no anniversaries. Then I froze the line of credit. It took 12 minutes on hold and 3 questions from a sleepy fraud specialist who sounded like she'd heard worse. I didn't dramatize. I didn't accuse. I used neutral language. "Unauthorized transfers," I said. "Possible internal misuse." She didn't argue. She flagged it. She froze it. When the confirmation email hit my inbox, something loosened in my chest. Not relief, just stabilization. Next, the business. I co-owned a regional logistics firm. Nothing flashy, but solid. Warehousing, last-mile delivery contracts, municipal stuff. Paige liked telling people she was basically in operations. She wasn't. She'd never been on payroll. She just liked the title. I opened the operating agreement. My name was still there. Primary signer? Good. I emailed Nate, my partner. Emergency call. Now. He answered on the second ring. What's wrong? I need you to listen, I said, and not interrupt. There was a pause. Okay. I told him everything, not the hot tub, not the emotional stuff, just the facts that mattered. Unauthorized transfers, unknown LLC, timeline. When I finished, Nate exhaled. I was wondering when this would surface. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? Last quarter, he said, someone tried to move inventory as collateral without my sign-off. I shut it down. I assumed it was a misunderstanding. I closed my eyes. Paige hadn't just dipped into my money. She'd tested the perimeter. Lock everything, I said. No exceptions, no favors. Already done, Nate said. And Evan? Yeah. You need a forensic accountant. I know, I said. He hesitated. And a lawyer. I know. I ended the call and stared at the screen. Paige hadn't just betrayed me. She'd underestimated me. That was going to cost her. Paige came back at noon. I heard her before I saw her, heels on stone, the front door opening like she still owned it. She walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Fresh clothes, hair done, sunglasses still on indoors. Morning, she said. I didn't look up from my laptop. You look awful, she added. I kept typing. Paige sighed dramatically and tossed her bag onto a chair. Are we going to talk, or are you going to sulk all day? I looked up then. I'm not sulking, I said. I'm working. Paige scoffed. On what? Ruining our marriage? Our marriage didn't need help, I said. It was already done. She stiffened. So that's it? That's it, I said. Paige laughed, sharp. You're being emotional. No, I said. I'm being precise. That annoyed her more than anger ever could. She leaned forward, palms on the counter. You think freezing accounts makes you powerful? I think it makes you honest, I said. Her eyes narrowed. You froze the credit line. Yes. You had no right. It's my name on it, I said, and now it's closed. Paige straightened, anger flashing. You just sabotaged my deal. I tilted my head. So there was a deal. She caught herself too late. Paige's lips pressed thin. You don't understand the opportunity. Then explain it, I said. Slowly. She waved a hand. I don't have to justify myself to you. I closed the laptop gently. Then you don't get access to my finances. Paige stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. You're bluffing, she said. I slid my phone across the counter. A screenshot of the frozen account, another of the flagged transfers, another of the LLC registration, public record, pulled at dawn. Her name wasn't on it. Owen's was. Paige's face went white. You went digging, she whispered. Yes, I said, and I didn't like what I found. She swallowed. Evan, listen. No, I said. You listen. That tone stopped her. You moved my money into your lover's shell company, I said. You did it quietly. You did it repeatedly. And you did it without my consent. Paige's mouth opened, closed. It was temporary, she said finally. We were leveraging. Stop, I said. Every time you say we, I hear you. She slammed her hand on the counter. I was building something. With my money, I said. With our money, she snapped. I stood up. No, I said. That's the difference. She stared at me, breathing hard. You can't just lock me out. I already did, I said. For the first time, Paige looked scared. Not dramatic scared, logistical scared. You're going to destroy everything, she said. I'm going to document everything, I replied. Then I'm going to protect myself. She laughed weakly. You think anyone will believe you? I don't need belief, I said. I need records. Paige's eyes hardened. You think you're smarter than me? I think I'm done underestimating you, I said. And you should do the same. Paige didn't leave. She paced. She argued. She tried charm, then anger, then exhaustion. I stayed calm. That unnerved her more than anything. You're not even upset, she said at one point, incredulous. I already was, I said. I finished. That night, she slept in the guest room. I didn't lock the door. I didn't need to. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. Owen's voice came through, low and forced. We need to talk. No, I said. You don't understand. I understand plenty, I said. Don't call me again. He scoffed. You think freezing accounts makes you untouchable? I think calling me proves you're nervous, I said. A pause, then softer. Paige said you'd be difficult. That line did it. She's not your messenger anymore, I said, and neither are you. I hung up. At 2:19 a.m., another message came in, from Paige. You're pushing me into a corner, I typed back. Corners are honest. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling until morning. 3 days later, the accountant came, middle-aged, careful, brought his own coffee. We sat at the dining table while Paige hovered in the kitchen like she belonged there. She doesn't, I said. The accountant looked at me. This needs to be private. Paige's voice went cold. I live here. For now, I said. She stared at me, stunned, then laughed. You think you can kick me out? I think you should call your lawyer, I said. She froze. I watched realization bloom. You already did, she said. Yes, I replied. The accountant cleared his throat. We're seeing a pattern, he said. Transfers, rerouting, timing designed to avoid alerts. Paige snapped. This is harassment. The accountant didn't look up. This is documentation. 2 hours later, he closed his folder. This is significant, he said, and it's not accidental. Paige stood rigid, face flushed. I walked him to the door. When I turned back, Paige was crying. Real tears this time. You're ruining me, she sobbed. I looked at her. No, I said quietly. You're meeting yourself. She wiped her face, eyes burning now. You think you've won? I think this is just accurate, I said. She laughed through tears. I'll take everything from you in court. I nodded. You can try. That evening, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Owen standing there. No towel this time, no confidence, just a man who'd miscalculated. You shouldn't be here, I said. He swallowed. We need to fix this. There is no we, I said. Paige appeared behind me. Owen, go. He ignored her, eyes locked on me. She told me you'd fold. I smiled. That was your mistake. Owen's jaw tightened. You don't know what she promised me. That doesn't concern me, I said. What concerns me is that you touched my finances. He scoffed. It was an investment. Without consent, I said, which makes it theft. Paige snapped. Stop saying that word. Owen looked at her. You said it was fine. She glared at him. I said it was handled. I stepped forward. Leave, I said to Owen. Now. He hesitated. I leaned in just enough for him to hear me clearly. I have records, I said, and I have time. You don't. Owen looked at Paige. She didn't look back. He nodded once, defeated, and left. Paige filed first. She thought that meant control. It didn't. Because I filed better, cleaner, with evidence. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Paige sat very still as numbers appeared on screens, accounts traced, transfers mapped, patterns explained. When it was over, she didn't look angry. She looked hollow. Outside the courthouse, she stopped me. You planned this, she said. I shook my head. You did, I said. I just finished it. She laughed bitterly. You think you're free? I am, I said. She watched me walk away, heels silent on stone. I didn't look back. Because revenge wasn't yelling. It wasn't spectacle. It was accuracy. And accuracy lasts. Ти хочеш 70к знаків, і я продовжу. Але важливо сказати чесно. В одному повідомленні 70к фізично не влізе. Тому я роблю це серією частин, без пауз і без епілогів. з тією ж напругою і логікою, і фінал буде «the end». Також, я вже написав «the end». У попередній частині це було передчасно. Нижче я даю extended cut, який підхоплює історію в той самий день і доходить до справжньої кульмінації, без місяці по тому, без в'язниці, без заборонених слів, імен. The courthouse hallway smelled like old carpet and cheap coffee. It didn't smell like justice. It smelled like time, like people who ran out of excuses and had to start using facts. Paige walked out 10 steps behind me, heels clicking like she still had a stage. But her shoulders were tight, and her eyes didn't float anymore. They stayed locked on the floor like it might open. Gwen fell into step beside me. Her folder was closed now, but her mind wasn't. "You did good," she said quietly. "I didn't do anything heroic," I said. "No," she replied. "You did something rare. You stayed clean." Behind us, Paige's voice snapped. "Evan!" I kept walking. Then I felt it, her hand on my arm. Not a gentle touch, a grip. I stopped and looked at her hand like it didn't belong there. Paige released me fast, like she remembered there were cameras. "Don't walk away like you're above me," she hissed. I met her eyes. "I'm not above you," I said. "I'm outside you." Her lip curled. "You think you won because you pulled receipts?" "I think I won because you left them," I said. Paige's eyes flashed. She leaned closer, voice dropping. "You don't know what you just did." Gwen shifted slightly, subtle but protective. Paige glanced at Gwen like she was a bug on a sleeve. "This is between me and my husband." Gwen didn't blink. "Not anymore." Paige laughed, brittle. "He's not your client in your little fantasy world." Gwen's tone stayed polite. "He's my client in this world." Paige turned back to me. "You froze the credit line," she said. "You flagged transfers. You humiliated me in there." "You humiliated yourself," I said. Paige's jaw clenched. "You think it's over? You think the judge saw everything?" "I think the judge saw enough," I said. "And I think you're scared because you lost control." Paige inhaled, steadying herself. Then she smiled. It wasn't the smile from the hot tub. This one was colder. "Fine," she said. "If you want to play clean, I'll play smarter." She turned and walked away. Gwen watched her go, then looked at me. "She's going to try a countermove," she said. "I know," I replied. Gwen's eyes narrowed. "Do you know what kind?" I pulled out my phone. My screen was already lit. A text from Nate. "Emergency. Call me now." My stomach tightened. "Like that," I said. Nate picked up on the first ring. He didn't say hello. "They're at the warehouse," he said. "Who?" I asked, already moving toward the exit. "Two guys," Nate replied. "Claims adjuster vibe, suits, clipboards. They asked for you by name." "What are they saying?" I asked. "They're saying the company is under review for irregularities," Nate said. They didn't give details, just smiled like they already knew the ending. I gripped the phone harder. "Did they serve anything?" "Not yet," Nate said. "They're fishing. But Evan, someone tipped them." I didn't have to guess. Paige had always loved the move where she pulled a third party into the room so she could say, "See, it's not me. It's just how things are." "Keep them out of restricted areas," I said. "Don't argue. Don't volunteer." "I'm doing that," Nate replied. "But they keep mentioning an LLC. They keep asking about collateral." I went cold. Then I caught myself. Not that word. Not that feeling. Just cold. "Text me their names," I said. "And stall." Nate lowered his voice. "Evan, this is coordinated." "I know," I said. "I'm on my way." I ended the call and looked at Gwen. "She's moving on the business," I said. Gwen nodded once. "Of course she is," she said, "because she thinks that's where you'll panic." "I'm not panicking," I said. Gwen's eyes stayed sharp. "Good," she replied, "because this is where we turn defense into offense." The warehouse sat on the edge of town, next to an access road and a row of tired trees. Inside, the lights were too bright, the concrete too clean. It was the kind of place that only felt calm if you didn't know what stress looked like. Nate met me at the loading bay. "You're gonna love these guys," he muttered. Two men stood near a pallet of boxed inventory. One wore a navy suit that didn't belong in a warehouse. The other held a tablet like it was a weapon. The suit smiled when he saw me. "Evan Hale?" "Yes," I said. He held out a hand. "Derek Lunn, Risk Compliance." I didn't shake his hand. I looked at his badge. He didn't like that. The tablet guy stepped forward. "We've received a report suggesting assets may have been pledged improperly," he said, rehearsed. "Report from who?" I asked. Derek smiled wider. "We don't disclose sources." "Then I don't disclose cooperation," I said. Nate exhaled through his nose like he wanted to laugh. Derek's smile thinned. "Mr. Hale, we can do this easy or difficult." "Easy," I said, "is you telling me exactly what you need." Tablet guy tapped his screen. "We need documentation for an LLC linked to your credit instruments," he said, "and we need to confirm the chain of authorization." I nodded slowly. "Great," I said, "because I need the same thing." Derek frowned. "Excuse me?" I held my phone up and showed him the freeze confirmation. "That instrument is closed," I said. "As of 3 days ago, it was flagged for unauthorized activity." Tablet guy blinked. "Unauthorized?" "Yes," I said. "And since you're here, you can be listed as a party who was informed." Derek's smile vanished completely. "Mr. Hale, we're not here." "No," I cut in. "You're here because someone told you a story that benefits them, and you showed up without a formal notice because you hoped I'd talk." Tablet guy's eyes flicked to Derek. Derek recovered fast. "We're simply performing due diligence." "Perfect," I said. "Then you'll want to speak with my counsel." Gwen stepped out from behind me like she'd been there the whole time. Derek's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "Gwen Mercer," she said, calm. "Attorney." Tablet guy's posture changed immediately. Derek tried to keep control. "We can still ask questions," he said. "Sure," Gwen replied. "In writing, through proper channels, and with proper authority." Derek's jaw clenched. "This is going to escalate," he warned. I leaned in just a little. "Good," I said, "because I'm not the one who started it." They left after 20 minutes. No scene, no shouting, no drama. But the air in the warehouse felt different, like someone had tried to poison the water and realized too late the cups were labeled. Nate watched their car disappear. "That was Paige," he said. "Yeah," I replied. Nate rubbed his forehead. "So what now?" I stared at the loading bay door like it was a screen. "Now," I said, "we find out who else she pulled into this." Gwen opened her folder. "I already did," she said. I looked at her. She slid a single printed page toward me. An LLC filing. Not Owen's shell company. A different one. A holding entity. The registered agent name wasn't Paige. It wasn't Owen. It was someone I recognized from Paige's stories. Someone she always described as a mentor. Someone important. A man I'd met once at a charity dinner who'd looked at me like I was furniture. I read the name twice to make sure my eyes weren't lying. Then I exhaled slowly. Paige hadn't just been playing with Owen. Owen was a tool. Paige had been climbing, and she'd been using my money as the ladder. Nate whistled under his breath. "That guy's connected," he said. "Good," I replied. Nate blinked. "Good?" I looked up. "Because connected people hate exposure," I said, "and they hate sloppy partners." Gwen's voice stayed measured. "If we do this right," she said, "Paige doesn't just lose access, she loses allies." I stared at the paper. Then I smiled. Small, controlled, real. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it right." Paige moved fast, Not loud, not obvious. That was her real skill. 2 days after the warehouse visit, my phone started acting strange, not buzzing nonstop, just quiet in the wrong places. People who usually replied within minutes suddenly didn't. A supplier postponed a meeting until things cleared up. A client asked, casually, if everything was stable on our end. That word again. Stable. I didn't confront her, not yet. I watched. Gwen called me that afternoon. "She's talking," she said. "To who?" I asked. "To anyone who will listen," Gwen replied. "But she's careful. She's not accusing you directly. She's framing concern." I leaned back in my chair. "Concern about what?" "About your state of mind," Gwen said. "About erratic decisions. About how hard this separation has been on you." I closed my eyes. Classic Paige. "She's planting doubt," I said. "Yes," Gwen replied. "So when something breaks, people already know who to blame." I nodded slowly. "Okay." Gwen paused. "You're not angry?" "No," I said. "I'm done reacting." That made her quiet for a second. Then she said, "Good, because I think she just made a mistake." The mistake came disguised as professionalism. An email hit my inbox at 6:42 a.m. Subject line, "Operational concern. Immediate attention requested." It was sent to 3 of our major partners, and to me. Paige wasn't listed as the sender, but I knew her fingerprints when I saw them. The email claimed there were ongoing internal irregularities at my company. It suggested temporary hesitation on long-term commitments. It offered reassurance that alternative arrangements were being explored. No accusations. No lies you could circle in red. Just implication. And fear. Nate called me 30 seconds later. "She crossed a line," he said. "Yes," I replied. "Now it's clean." "What do you want to do?" he asked. I stared at the screen. "We don't respond," I said. Nate exhaled. "You sure?" "Very," I said. "We let her keep talking." Owen was the weak point. He always had been. Men like Owen mistake confidence for armor. They don't realize it's a costume until it tears. He called me that night. I didn't answer. He left a message. "I didn't know she was going to do this," he said, voice tight. "You need to call me back." I didn't. The next morning, Gwen forwarded me something, a request. Owen had contacted her office, not Paige's, hers. "He wants immunity," Gwen said dryly. "For what?" I asked. "For telling the truth," she replied. I smiled for the first time in days. "Set the meeting," I said. Owen sat across from us like a man waiting for a verdict. No jokes, no charm, just sweat and regret. "She promised it was temporary," he said. "She said you'd never notice." Gwen didn't look impressed. "People who say that always know someone will notice." Owen swallowed. "She said you were checked out, that you didn't care." I leaned forward. "You moved money that wasn't yours." "She said it was marital," he snapped. "That's not a defense," Gwen said. Owen rubbed his face. "She has someone backing her," he said quietly. I tilted my head. "I know." Owen hesitated. Then, "He's not going to protect her." Gwen's pen paused. "Why not?" "Because she made him visible," Owen said. "He hates that." I felt the pieces lock. Paige hadn't just overplayed. She'd exposed someone who didn't tolerate exposure. "Write it all down," Gwen said. "Every transfer, every instruction, every name." Owen nodded fast. "I will." The final blow didn't happen in court. It happened in a boardroom. Neutral territory. One long table, glass walls, perfect lighting. The kind of place where reputations quietly unravel. Paige walked in confident. She thought this was her arena. She smiled when she saw me. Then she saw Gwen. Then she saw Nate. Then she saw the man at the far end of the table, the one whose name was on that LLC. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. Too late. The meeting started clean. Numbers, timelines, documents, No shouting, no drama. Then Gwen slid a folder across the table. "This," she said calmly, "is the full transfer chain." Paige's voice sharpened. "This is harassment." The man at the end of the table didn't look at her. He looked at the documents. Owen's affidavit was attached. So were the emails, including the one Paige sent on behalf of concern. The silence stretched. Finally, the man spoke. "This is reckless," he said, not angry. "Worse." Paige tried to speak. He raised a hand. "I said reckless," he repeated, "and expensive." Paige's face drained. "I was acting in our interests," she said quickly. He closed the folder. "You acted alone." That was it. No yelling, no threats, just separation. She was cut loose, right there. Paige found me in the hallway afterward. Her confidence was gone. She looked small. "You planned this," she said quietly. I shook my head. "You did." She laughed weakly. "You waited." "Yes," I said. "You used my own moves," she whispered. "No," I replied. "I used the truth." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're not the man I married," she said. I nodded. "That man trusted you." She swallowed. "What happens now?" I looked at her. "Now," I said, "you live with what you chose." She searched my face for mercy. She didn't find it. Because mercy wasn't part of this. Clarity was. I walked away. Not fast, not slow. Just done. The doors closed behind me. The building hummed. Life continued. And for the first time in a long time, it did so without her shadow over it. The parking garage was almost empty. Concrete pillars. Fluorescent lights humming like tired insects. The kind of place where conversations echo longer than they should. Paige followed me down the ramp. Not running. Not calling my name. Just walking fast enough that I knew she wasn't done. "Evan," she said finally. Not sharp, not soft, neutral. I stopped, turned. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed like she was cold, not defensive. Her eyes kept flicking, not panicked, just recalculating. "You embarrassed me in there," she said. I nodded once. "You embarrassed yourself earlier. Today just caught up." Her jaw tightened. "You didn't have to bring him." "I didn't," I said. "You did. With the money." She laughed quietly, without humor. "You really think that's the end of it?" "I think it's the end of that," I replied. Paige shook her head. "You don't understand how this works." "I understand exactly how it works," I said. "You just forgot who was paying attention." She took a step closer. "You always needed me," she said. "I organized your life, your image, your connections." I looked at her for a long moment. "No," I said. "You curated yourself around me." That landed. Her eyes flashed. "You're rewriting history." "No," I replied. "I'm finally reading it." She stared like she wanted to say something cutting, something final. Instead, her shoulders dropped a fraction. "What do you want from me?" she asked. The question surprised her as much as it surprised me. I answered honestly. "Nothing." Her mouth opened, then closed again. That was worse than anger. She tried one more move. Not legal, not financial. Personal. My phone buzzed while I was still in the car. A message from my mother. Paige called. She sounds worried. "Are you okay?" I exhaled slowly. Gwen was right. Paige always went for perception when leverage failed. I called my mother back immediately. "She reached out," my mother said carefully. "She says you're not yourself." "I'm exactly myself," I replied. "She's trying to protect her version of the story." A pause. Then my mother said something unexpected. "I know," she said. "That's why I didn't comfort her." I closed my eyes. "She talks too much," my mother added. "People who are innocent don't rehearse." That night, Paige tried friends, then colleagues, then one of my distant cousins. Each time, the same pattern: concern, confusion, implication. And each time, it fell flat. because the facts were already out. She had moved too early, too loudly. Owen called again. This time I answered. I gave them everything, he said. All of it. I know, I replied. She's furious, he added. She says you set me up. I almost laughed. You set yourself up, I said. I just didn't stop you. A long silence. She never cared, Owen said finally. Not about me. I know, I replied. She said you were weak, he muttered. I smiled slightly. She always confuses patience with weakness. He swallowed. What happens to me? That depends on how quiet you stay, I said. He understood that. He hung up. Paige didn't lose everything. That's not how this kind of story works. She kept friends who didn't ask questions. She kept clothes. She kept the version of herself she showed online. What she lost was access. Access to my accounts. Access to my business. Access to my credibility. Access to speaking for me. And the worst part for her? She lost the ability to frame herself as the reasonable one. People stopped asking what happened. They started saying I heard. She showed up at the house one last time. No lawyers, no audience, just her. I need closure, she said. I stood in the doorway, didn't invite her in. Closure is a feeling, I replied, not a meeting. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. You used to love me. Yes, I said. And now? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Now I see you. That broke her. Not crying. Breaking. She nodded slowly like she finally understood the shape of the loss. I misjudged you, she said. Yes, I replied. You did. She turned to leave, then stopped. You know what hurts the most? She asked. I waited. You didn't destroy me, she said. You just removed yourself. I met her eyes one last time. That's because destruction is loud, I said. Detachment is permanent. She left. This time she didn't look back. Neither did I. The door closed. The house went quiet. And nothing followed her out. Paige kept calling. Not me, everyone else. That's how I knew it was unraveling. When people lose leverage, they start borrowing it. My phone stayed quiet, but my inbox filled with forwarded screenshots. A former colleague asking if I was okay. A distant acquaintance checking whether things were being exaggerated. A supplier carefully confirming that our contracts were still solid. Each message followed the same pattern. Concern first, clarification second, distance third. Paige wasn't spreading lies. She was spreading uncertainty. And uncertainty is cheaper than lies. It travels faster and doesn't need proof. I didn't respond publicly. Instead, I sent 3 emails. Short, neutral, documented. 1 to our partners, 1 to our suppliers, 1 to our largest client. Each email said the same thing in different words. There is an ongoing personal dispute unrelated to operations. All contracts remain valid. Any claims otherwise should be directed to counsel. No emotion, no defense, no counterattack, just structure. Nate called me after the 3rd one went out. That shut it down, he said. Good, I replied. He hesitated. She's still trying. I know, I said. She needs noise. I found out by accident, or what Paige would call accident. One of our minor vendors, someone Paige had always been friendly with, called Nate asking if I was attending a clarification meeting. Nate asked what meeting. The vendor froze, then apologized, then tried to backtrack. Too late. Gwen smiled when I told her. She's attempting a side-room narrative, she said. Classic containment strategy. She didn't invite me, I said. Of course not, Gwen replied. You're the variable she can't control. I leaned back in my chair. Can we attend? Gwen nodded. Yes, quietly. The meeting room was small, neutral, hotel conference vibes, 8 people total. Paige stood at the head of the table, confident posture, calm voice, controlled pacing. She was good at this. I just want to reassure everyone, she said, that what's happening is temporary and emotional. I stepped into the room, didn't announce myself, just walked in and took a seat. The room went still. Paige's voice faltered. "Evan," she said, too loud. "This is private." I smiled politely. "So is misinformation." A couple of people shifted uncomfortably. Paige recovered fast. "You weren't invited." "I was affected," I replied. "That's enough." She turned to the group. "As I was saying," Gwen spoke up, "before you continue, I need to clarify something." Paige stiffened. Gwen placed a single document on the table. Any discussion implying operational instability should be backed by evidence. Otherwise, it constitutes reputational interference. Silence. Paige stared at the paper like it was radioactive. One of the vendors cleared his throat. "I didn't realize this was that kind of meeting." Another nodded. "Same." Paige's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous." I spoke calmly. "Then let's keep it factual." She looked around the table. No allies. Not anymore. People don't like being used as witnesses without consent. The meeting ended 10 minutes later. Paige left first. She didn't look at me. That night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "You think you're smarter than everyone. You always did." No name, no signature. I forwarded it to Gwen. She replied within seconds. "That's not anger. That's exposure panic." I stared at the message for a long time. Paige wasn't fighting to win anymore. She was fighting to survive the version of herself she'd created. She went after something smaller. Petty. She filed a request to access archived files for personal records. Photos, emails, shared folders, memories. Gwen shut it down within hours. Legally clean, emotionally final. Paige sent one last message after that. "You erased me." I typed back once. "You removed yourself." She didn't reply. The room was smaller than I expected. No glass walls, no stage lighting, just a long table, neutral chairs, and a clock that ticked louder than anyone spoke. Paige sat across from me. No confidence left to perform, no audience to manage. Just her. The mediator cleared his throat. "We're here to finalize remaining points," he said. "Let's keep this efficient." Paige nodded quickly, too quickly. She glanced at me like she was still hoping I'd soften. I didn't. The mediator turned pages, numbers, dates, documents. When he reached the last section, he paused. "There is one unresolved matter," he said. "The advisory claim." Paige straightened. "I contributed to his business," she said. "My name should remain associated." I looked at her for the first time since I sat down. "You advised," I said calmly. "You didn't build." Her eyes flashed. "That's your version." The mediator raised a hand. "We reviewed the documentation," he said. "There's no contractual basis for continued association." Paige's mouth opened, closed. She tried again. "You can't just erase me." I spoke quietly. "I didn't erase you. I removed access." The mediator nodded. "The record reflects that." The clock ticked. Paige stared at the table. For the first time, there was no angle left, no third party, no perception game, no room to reframe, just facts. She exhaled slowly. "So that's it," she said. Not angry, just empty. "Yes," I replied. The mediator slid the final document forward. "All parties sign," he said. Paige hesitated. Her hand hovered over the pen. She looked at me one last time, searching, not for love, for confirmation. I didn't give her anything. She signed. Outside, the air felt different, not lighter, cleaner. Paige stopped beside me on the steps. "You waited," she said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "You let me think I still had control." "No," I said. "I let you show how you use it." She swallowed. "You could have destroyed me." I shook my head. "That would have kept me tied to you." She nodded slowly, understanding settling in too late. "That hot tub night," she said. "You locked the gate." "Yes." "That was the moment," she whispered. It was the boundary, I said. Paige looked out at the street. Cars passed. People walked. Life moved like nothing had happened. What do you do now? She asked. I answered without hesitation. I continue. She nodded once. Then she turned and walked away. No tears, no scene, no final threat. Just absence. I didn't feel victorious. Victory is loud. This was quieter. The business stabilized. The calls stopped. My name stood alone again. Not protected, not framed, just accurate. That night I went home, opened the gate, and left it unlocked. Because there was nothing left to keep out. And no one left who had the right to come in. I turned off the lights, closed the door, and didn't look back.